Okay, so this video I'm going to try and explain my thoughts on different board sizes with their use for FoilDrive. So these three boards here, I've got a Jimmy Lewis 110 litre board, it's 5'9". The original model of the apple tree apple slice, which is 5'2" by 90 litres, and this is the version 2, the updated model of the apple slice, which is 4'9" by 60 litres. Now I've also used a Fanatic Skywing 5.0 by 75 litres and a Sonova prone foil board that's 5'3", so quite long for a prone board, by 43 litres. So all the pros and cons, and what I use them for. It's very important, probably the most important thing to consider in all of this is your weight and the volume of the board that you're using. It's all about the float. Yeah, the size, the overall length and width is another factor, but really, because we're talking about the battery box needing to stay above the water, if it goes below water, it'll lose connection with the remote trigger and you can't engage the motor. So, I'm 82 kilograms. Obviously the 110 litre board floats me no problem at all. With the standard assist, I could get going even on flat water, even without a paddle, no problem at all. In fact, the original FoilDrive assist, I could do that on the Skywing 75 litre board, which I think is actually 70 litres and 410. I've measured it and they've oversized it for some reason. But anyway, 70 litres, no problem. Well, it was a bit of a struggle to get up on foil with the original assist, but absolutely no issues whatsoever getting up on flat water, even with the 60 litre board. However, I have to mount the box at the front of the board. I'll show you. So, normally the battery box would be at the back of the board, just behind your back foot, and then you can either have the motor pod positioned close to the board for use as an assist, and with the FoilDrive Assist Plus, you can have the motor pod right at the bottom of the mast, close to the fuselage, and use it as a full efoil. Quick disclaimer here, FoilDrive don't recommend that you use the original FoilDrive Assist as a full efoil for efoiling around continuously. It's not designed for that. I have done it a few times myself, but the battery duration is very, very low, and I haven't done it a lot because I'm worried about damaging some components or the battery itself. But the FoilDrive Assist, as long as you're using the big battery, can definitely cope with full efoiling. Battery duration, again, it depends entirely on your weight, on the size and especially the volume of the board and the foil that you're using. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So, with a small negative volume board, the Sonova prone board that was 5'3", I had the battery box mounted right at the front, and of course you can then only use it as an assist, but that was fine. That was what I was trying to do to test to see whether I could do some downwinding with it, and it worked fine. But I really noticed the swing weight. It made pumping a lot harder, and manoeuvrability, it was really compromised because of that extra swing weight. So when I got the 4.9, I really thought I'd try it again, a slightly smaller compact board, and this time I was able to mount the battery box literally just a centimetre in front of my front foot. And it worked really well, and the swing weight was much less noticeable, but I could only mount the box in a position that meant I had quite a narrow stance. Now, I have a narrow stance normally, especially for downwinding. I'm standing quite upright, I'm doing that sort of tap, tap, tap type pumping for efficiency. But when I'm carving around, when I'm wave riding, and at times within wing foiling, I like to move my feet around, change the stance and the width between my feet. So I couldn't move my foot forwards, so I came up with the idea of moving the battery box to this position here, and swing weight again is reduced, so almost unnoticeable. My front foot, which is here, I can now move anywhere I like. For paddling, because the board, the battery box isn't to the back of the board, it doesn't sink underwater and lose connection. And when I'm lying on it, I'm always up on my elbows anyway, just lightly holding the nose of the board. Pull the trigger. As soon as I get up a little bit of speed, come up onto my knees and stand up, or as I'm doing nowadays, I'm getting a fair bit more speed initially and then just popping straight up. It all works really, really well. Now the disadvantage of this, obviously, is I can't full efoil on a negative volume board because the cable length doesn't allow me, by the time it's gone all the way under the back of the board to the mast and down, it doesn't allow me to get to the bottom of the mast for full efoiling. So, for me, using a negative volume board is absolutely perfect for when I'm using it as an assist. I can catch swell, on flat water I can do this. And it's really, really, really good. If I want to do full efoiling, then I was originally using the Jimmy Lewis 110 litre board. But for full efoiling, I really noticed the bulk of the board. 5'9" by 30 inches wide. It was perfect for me when I was learning subfoiling. It's really good as a super light wing foil board. But for full efoiling, I really noticed the bulk and the size of the board. And for cruising around, it's fine. But as soon as you want to do some dynamic moves, turning, whatever, carving around, then you notice the bulk. So when Appletree offered me the original model of Apple Slice board, 5'2" by 24.5 inches wide and 90 litres, I jumped at it, and with the box at the back of the board, can use it as a full efoil because the cable stretches that far, no problem at all. And 82 kilograms, 90 litre board. Occasionally, if I'm not careful about balance, I'll sink the back of the board, and when I pull the trigger, it doesn't respond because it's lost connectivity. But most of the time, especially if I'm lying on the board to begin with, if I'm kneeling, I've got to be careful. Standing, very wobbly, 6'2", 82 kilograms, 90 litres, not the best balance in the world. When you're still, it's very difficult to keep the box from sinking underwater. So either a kneeling start on totally flat water. If there's any chop, you usually have to lie on the board. But if there's any swell or small waves, I would always use the negative volume board and use the FoilDrive as an assist. For efoiling, proper full efoiling, I would only ever do that on flat water anyway. So the 90 litre board, for me, my size, my weight, my skill level, I think is about as small as I would want to go for a full efoiling session. Much less bulk than the Jimmy Lewis 110 litre board, much more throw around. It's just really nice. So, to conclude, 60 litres or less. I personally think down to a 50 litre board would be fine. Any lower than that, any smaller than that, and is the size of the board, the smaller size of the board, going to outweigh the fact that the smaller you go, the less duration your battery will last for, because obviously the more negative volume the board is, the more power it needs to get you up onto the foil, and therefore the quicker your battery will drain. So for me, 60 litres seems to be absolutely perfect. 50 litre board maybe. For the Apple Slice, that would only save an inch in the length, but obviously 10 litres less. So you've got to make your decision really. For full efoiling, I reckon for me 90 litres is absolutely fine. I know I can do that without too many problems, and there's still, it feels really nice. not too big and bulky. I've seen some really cool posts on the FoilDrive owners group on Facebook. There's some people using the FoilDrive Plus on smaller boards than me. It's a 50 litre board and the box is at the back of the board, and he's getting up okay. He's modified it so he's just to the side as he starts off, and then he pulls himself up. Now that's flat water, and I would love to hear if he's used it on in swell or in waves, whether or not that the board would sink at the back or not. I suspect it might be slightly more difficult, but you know, he's doing one better than me already, so there's no reason to suspect that he can't use his setup for downwinding as well. Now, that's all well and good for the size of the board. How about the size of the foil? Well, again, as you go smaller in board size, it's going to use more power to get you up onto the foil, because there's more drag, more water displacement before you start planing and pop up. With the foil size as well, it's fairly similar in principle. The bigger the foil and the more lift it's got, then the easier you're going to, or the quicker you're going to be able to get up on foil, and the less power you're using when you're e-foiling around. I've used this with the Axis 1150 and 1300, those two really big foils, the Kajira 1440 and the Axis Art 1099. And as you'd expect, the smaller the foil gets, the harder it is to get up on foil, the more battery it's using, and even when you're on foil, it needs more power to sustain it. And manoeuvring around, if you're carving hard, then that's going to take up more power as well, so your sessions get reduced the more you do that. With a big foil, even on my 60 litre board, e-foiling as an assist, I mean, not as a proper e-foil, hours, over 2 hours easy. With these two big boards, using it as a full e-foil, the big battery, big foil, not carving around a lot, just cruising around about 25 minutes. The Kajira 1440, doing quite a bit of turning, carving around about 20 minutes. 1099, 15 minutes tops. It really does reduce the battery time. But if you're using it as an assist, even e-foiling back between waves to connect multiple waves, talking a long, long time, because the bigger your gap between using it, the more the battery tends to almost recharge, so it lasts a lot longer with little gaps in between usage. As soon as you're using it continuously, the battery life drains real quick. But yeah, I'm going to do another video on battery sizes, because otherwise this one's going to go on forever. I hope that's helped. If you've got any questions, please fire them my way and I'll do my best to answer them. Let's get some discussions going, and please share your experiences. Love to hear from you all. Cheers. Thanks.